Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and every pronoun and beautiful technicolored pal in between. You know who it is, Jake Flame. And, yes, you guessed it, I am back with some more chapters of James Patterson and Chris Grabenstein, or Grabensteins. Still haven't figured out the guy's last name, how it's pronounced yet. Still working on that. Anyways, back with their book, Daniel X Lights Out. So, before we begin, I've got good news. Seeing as how I'm starting to get into the flow of making more videos and stuff, I decided to try and add another project to the roster of videos I want to post for you all to enjoy. However, there are three things that I'm going to need before doing that. First off, I'm kind of gonna need to work on the ideas, like the original content for this video. I know what it should be about, but I don't know about how to get the content of what the video is supposed to be. If that makes sense. If that doesn't, then apologies. I have a weird way of trying to explain things. Please forgive me on that one. The second thing would be finding time in my own personal time, outside of work and all this, to try and get the video together. Not to mention the equipment, which is more or less the third thing, alongside the money, which completes the other half of the third thing. However, I will worry about that at another date because I will not be making those videos until I have finished the entire book of Daniel X Lights Out. So, y'all won't have to worry about me stressing myself out trying to please you viewers. So, without further ado, y'all know the drill. It is now story time with Jake Flame. So if y'all want to, before this video starts, before we start reading the book, of course, you can hit that like button, click that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and make sure to hit that bell icon to get notified. Oh, and comment down in the comments below to tell me what you think, as usual. And now, without further ado, here we go. Now, when we last left off with Daniel X, it was on Chapter 8, where he had finally escaped that crazy mental hospital thing that he discovered was just a ruse set up by Number One, the Prayer, as a way of trying to keep him under surveillance until it was time for him to finally feast on him. Or just straight up eradicate him. Or whatever it is his plan is exactly. We're not really sure. But we will be now. Chapter 9. I started running again. Out of the woods. Down an embankment. To a deserted highway. Sharp chunks of gravel and shards of broken glass bit into the soles of my bare feet. But I kept running. I had no idea where I was headed except away from it. Away from Number One, the monster that so desperately wanted to finish what he had started all those years ago back in Kansas. He had wanted to kill me when I was 3. He clearly wanted to kill me now. Let the hunt begin! His battle cry rang in my ears. Fortunately, whatever drugs the quack doctors had pumped into my Alpernokian system were starting to wear off. I realized that the hospital actually was not exactly a POW camp, but a high-end hunting club for the most twisted extraterrestrial ever to set his crooked foot on planet Earth. Some Earthlings hunt clubs like to fatten up pheasants, geese, and ducks and then release them into their private game preserves. Sounds familiar from some of the cartoons I've seen. Doing so guarantees their high-paying guests a quality kill, not to mention a delicious dinner. Nurse O'Hara and her minions seem to be in the same business, fattening me up for the kill and warping my mind so their lord and master will be guaranteed a quality, as in easy, kill. Forget hunting him. He was coming after me. I ran a little faster. A reflective green road sign up ahead told me the empty highway was I-94 and Bismarck was 60 miles dead ahead. I was in North Dakota. How did that happen? That last highway I was walking along right before the Mack truck rumbled over me was in Kentucky. I ducked into a rest area, made my way from the parking lot across a patch of weedy grass to a picnic area. I stopped running and listened for the prayer. I scurried under a picnic table to hide, the way I hid back in Kansas. I had been in the basement playing with my toys when the beast burst into our home. I fell to the floor when I heard a string of deafening noises. "We love you, Daniel," my father had called out. "Always!" And then I heard nothing except the clanging echo of the shots that had just killed both my parents. Terrified, I knew the beast would come down into the cellar to kill me next. So I squeezed my tiny body behind an old water heater. I tried to hide. Then I tried not to breathe. "I knew you down here, boy," the giant insect said as his muscular legs clomped down the wooden steps. I saw him make a slow, horrifying roll with a stalk-like neck. "If you make me play this silly game of hide and seek, you are going to learn the meaning of the word punishment." Now, cowering underneath this old picnic table, I pulled my knees to my chest. Was this it? My last hiding place? My final redo? Was our silly game about to come to a very bad end? I waited. My whole body trembled with adrenaline-induced palsy and fear. It was Kansas all over again. Chapter 10. My goodness, some of these chapters are rather short. Thank goodness for open-back hospital gowns that leave your butt hanging out in the breeze. A sudden gust of cold air spanked my rear end so hard it shook me out of the little pity party I'd been throwing myself underneath the picnic table. "Snap out of it, Daniel," I said to myself because, hey, somebody sure needed to say it. "You are Daniel X, the alien hunter. You are not a 3-year-old kid hiding from monsters in the cellar anymore." And even when I was 3, I wasn't a total wimp. I remember tricking the prayer out of his third victim that day by turning into a tiny tick. The memory made me smile for the first time in what seemed like hours. Hadn't I been planning to take the fight to number 1, maybe his desire to hunt me down would turn out to be a good thing. It would definitely save me all sorts of time doing recon and gathering intelligence. I wouldn't need to track down the prayer because I already had the perfect bait to lure him into whatever trap I set. Me. I quickly tested my external transformative powers by whipping myself up a new set of clothes, including shoes and a proper pair of jeans. The jeans weren't perfect, a little baggy on the seat and totally not this year's hot style. But it was a start. My powers weren't functioning at the peak of perfection, but they were definitely on the mend. I might still be vulnerable, but I was no longer completely defenseless. I flashed back to when I was dealing with number 2, a demonic alien who turned out to be the same creature Earthlings have called Satan or Beelzebub. I remember asking my dad, if number 2 is the devil, what's number 1? His answer still gave me chills. Something much worse. He is a deity, Daniel. A god. So to summarize, I, Daniel X, was currently being hunted down by some sort of giant, all-powerful, omnipotent, insect-like god. Oh boy. One that clearly wanted to use some of its omnipotence to slay me and then destroy the adopted planet that I loved. I was gonna need backup. Serious backup. It was time to summon the real, and by real I mean imaginary, Willie, Dana, Joe, and Emma. I focused on their spiritual essences. Nothing happened. So I focused again. Nothing. Nada. Zip. I was still completely alone. But not for long. A big truck came rumbling down the highway. Its twin headlights cut across the darkness as it swung off the road and onto the rest area exit camp. I zoomed in on its front grille, caught the glimpse of a sharply angled bulldog hood ornament. It was another Mack truck, the kind that nearly killed me in Kentucky. And it wasn't alone. Chapter 11. A convoy of 24 tractor-trailer trucks came rumbling off the interstate. Jeez. Pumping their hissing air brakes, they pulled into the parking lot, ringing the grassy patch, which was dotted with picnic tables. All 24 were Macks. All 24 had the same shiny chrome hood ornament, the tough, muscular bulldog poised to pounce. I backed up a foot or two. I needed time to assess my situation. The idling trucks, lined up in parking slots, more or less formed a semicircle of hot, thrumming steel in front of me. Behind me, I could hear a small stream gurgling through a ravine. If I ran across the open field and into the woods, again, the enormous trucks wouldn't be able to chase after me. They weren't what you might call off-road vehicles. They couldn't roll over me and crush my bones like that Mack truck back in Kentucky had. I was about to make a beeline for the tree line when I heard the prayer's disembodied, high-pitched voice echoing through the night. The beast was roaring louder than the thundering din of 24 diesel-powered engines. Release the dogs! I expected rear cargo doors to roll up so 24 packs of brain-barking bloodhounds could come storming out the big rigs. I wasn't expecting a total transformation. Every single trailer jackknifed up on its front and rear axles and morphed into a giant, muscle-rippled metal bulldog. God damn. The 24 trucks were turning themselves into 24 ginormous hood ornaments. Each powerful chrome beast had to weigh 40 tons. They were 40 feet long, 15 feet wide, maybe 20 feet tall. Thick folds of shiny skin drooping down around their snub muzzles made them look angry at the world. Or maybe just at me. And these giant bulldogs had teeth. Pointy steel bulldog teeth. Sick 'em! Screeched number 1. The giant dogs sprang up from their haunches and charged after me. their jagged metal paws clawing huge divots into the asphalt and chewing up sod like the teeth on a backhoe bucket. I raced for the ravine. Little known fact, bulldogs were first used in jolly old England for a bloody sport called bull baiting. A bull would be staked in the center of a ring. Bulldogs would be sent in to seize the bull by the nose, a bull's most tender part, and not let go. Guess I was supposed to play the part of the bull. 4 of the gargantuan dogs broke off from the pack and leaped across the ravine in one easy stride on my right. Another 4 did the same thing on my left. The earth quaked when they landed. The other 16 beasts were snarling behind me. Silvery drooled slobber out of their jowls like liquid mercury from a shattered thermometer. Ugh. Their job, clearly, was to run me through the brambles and bushes and send me skidding down a slippery slope to the bottom of the ravine. I was being hunted, driven to ground, as they say in the Fox and the Hound set. I splashed across the shallow, rock-strewn creek as the bottom of the gully and scrambled up the far side. When I reached the top, the 8 wide-shouldered brutes that had broken off from the pack were waiting for me. The 16 behind me bellowed and howled. "Take him down!" screeched the prey. Eager to please its master, the leader of the pack snarled and replied and leaped right at me. Chapter 12. The dinosaur-sized bulldog locked its jaws of steel around my body like I was its favorite tug toy. When I wiggled inside its box-shaped muzzle, trying to work my way free, the giant dog shook its huge head back and forth to stun me into submission. It more or less worked. I quit skirming, made my body go limp. Fortunately, the metallic dog's droopy jowls had flapped inward to blanket its sharp teeth, so I didn't end up ripped to shreds with my stuffing strewn all over the ground. But the pressure clamping down on my body was excruciating. I felt like I was being squeezed inside an oversized vice grip. I could barely breathe. "Bring him to me!" I heard number 1 cry, his voice muffled by the jiggly walls of the giant bulldog's flabby cheeks. "Bring me Danny boy, the little alien hunter!" We were on the move. I heard the bulldog sniggering and snortling through its smushed-in snout. I could feel its stubby front legs pounding down the ravine slope through the creek up the other side. Every step the 4-ton beast took rattled my brain. I wondered if this slobbering silver hood ornament was part golden retriever. The obedient brute was bringing me back basically unharmed to its master, so number 1 could have all the pleasure of killing me himself. I thought about kicking out a few of my canine captor's teeth, but I knew I wasn't strong enough to take on a riled-up dog the size of a tractor trailer. Not yet, anyway. Chances were if I lashed out, I'd end up as kibble and bits. Lots and lots of bits. I decided to go with plan B, teleporting. If I totally concentrate on where I want to be, I could send my body to all sorts of places just by using my mind. Usually. I wasn't sure it would work, if I had the juice to pull it off. But I had to give it a shot. Otherwise, number 1 would be giving me a shot. And most likely it would be a plasma blast from an Opus 2424. an alien weapon so heinous and cruel it's been banned across most of the civilized universe. Sorry, kind of lost my page there. It was banned across most of the civilized universe. The thing has a built-in molecular resonator that causes its victims to expire from pure, unadulterated pain. Jesus Christ. Kind of glad humans don't have this kind of tech. It more or less tortures you to death. Number one had used an Opus 2424 on my parents. I figure he'd probably use one on me too. Watching me die in a prolonged spasm of absolute agony would definitely give him the quality kill he so desperately desired. I had to escape Fido's grip. Fast. So I imagined myself safe and sound on a white sandy beach. I blocked out the stringy dog saliva sloshing around my ears and concentrated on waves lapping up against the sunny shoreline. Instead of smelling rancid chunks of pepperoni rotting between the dog's teeth, I imagined palm trees gently swaying in a fragrant tropical breeze. The coconuts, "Drop him!" commanded the prayer. The mammoth bulldog opened its mouth. I slid down its slimy tongue and over the ridge of its teeth. Tumbling to the dirt 20 feet below, I rolled over on my back, closed my eyes, and focused hard on that distant beach. I imagined I was lying on a blanket, soaking up the rays, smelling... I have no idea how to read this word, but I'm going to try to pronounce it right. Smelling bougainvillea blossoms. I had to get there fast. I had to be there now. Because when I opened my eyes, I saw a giant spraying mantis with blood-red dreadlocks standing over me. His eyes were glowing with satisfaction as he aimed the sawtoothed muzzle of an Opus 2424 straight out my gut. A squealing whine told me the weapon was fully charged. Chapter 13. Suddenly, I wasn't lying on a beach or on the ground beneath number one spiky feet. I was standing in the middle of Times Square in New York City. Ooh. Taxicabs honked their horns. Double-decker tour buses swerved sideways so they wouldn't run over me. Because I was standing in the middle of Times Square. Right on the dotted line between traffic lanes at 7th Avenue and 42nd Street. This was no day at the beach. It was a night in Bedlam. I was stranded in a river of rushing traffic at the bottom of a canyon of towering skyscrapers, their sides cloaked in giant TV screens and blazing displays of neon light. Yeah, my teleportation powers were definitely rusty. They didn't take me where I wanted to go, but at least they saved me from a sure death back in North Dakota. Plus, I love New York City. The energy, the excitement, the spectacular light show that blazes across the skyline every night. It may not be the center of the universe as many New Yorkers claim, but it does come pretty close. Suddenly, a Mack truck, its chrome hood ornament glistening beneath Times Square's glare, came barreling down the avenue at me. My eyes zoomed in on the blocky, square-chested bulldog. Would number one really turn loose another of his 40-ton Gigantor hunting dogs in the middle of New York City? I was not about to stick around to find out. I dove to the side and landed on a traffic island crowded with pedestrians. "Hey! Watch what you're doing, pal!" snapped a New Yorker. "I'm standing here!" As the Mack truck rattled down 7th Avenue, the truck driver yanked on his horn to give me a serious blast of big city toot. "Get out of the road, nut job!" he shouted as he flipped me a New York City-style single-digit salute. I smiled and waved back, relieved to discover that sometimes a Mack truck is just a Mack truck. As I stood huddled with the mob of pedestrians crowded onto the traffic island, all of us antsy for the light to change so we could charge across 42nd Street, my cell phone began to vibrate. It almost emitted a very odd, very peculiar ringtone. A ringtone I had never downloaded or heard before. Dun dun. Chapter 14. The traffic stopped. The pedestrians froze. The walk sign never lit up. All the giant billboards surrounding Times Square quit flickering, some with bulbs stuck in mid-blink. Number 1, the all-powerful alien, the one my father warned me was a godlike creature, had somehow made time stand still in Times Square so he could send me a text message. I glanced down at the screen on my extremely smart phone. Apple will probably sell something similar in the year 2525. As I went, a glowing green message was waiting for me. As I went to open the text, I noticed my hand was bathed in an eerie green glow. I looked up. I would not need my phone. The prayer's message was boldly scrolled in bright green script on every conceivable electronic receptor in Times Square. The jumbo screen TVs, the flashing billboards, the chaser lights zipping electronic headlines around massive buildings. Even the illuminated advertisements on top of the stalled taxicabs proclaimed number one's message to me. "Congratulations, Danny boy! You've moved up to the top of my list. You are my new number one." I spent a few time-suspended seconds soaking it in. I guess turnabout is fair play, as they say. I've had the prayer at the top of my list my whole life. Now it was his turn to make me his number one draft pick, the prime target of his anger and wrath. For a moment, I wondered who used to be the prayer's number one. Why hadn't he focused on me in the past? Had he counted on some of his outlaw cronies in the top 10 to take me down? If he had, it didn't work out so well. I had already erased numbers 2 through 9 before any of them could erase me. So now it was just us. 2 number ones. 2 alien hunters locked in what would be, for one of us, our final battle. I was in for the fight of my life and I knew it. And if I had any doubts about the prayer's powers, they quickly evaporated when a pair of white-hot lightning bolts slammed down into Times Square, blasting new potholes into 7th Avenue and jolting time back into play. The cratered asphalt steamed and sizzled. Sparks crackled like fireworks and spewed out of every sign and TV screen hanging over the crossroads of the world. But the seeing everything New Yorkers around me just shrugged as the shower of electrical embers rained down on their heads. Some popped open umbrellas. Most probably figured a fuse must have blown somewhere. They just kept going to wherever it was they needed to be. Wow. People in New York really don't care about the crazy things that happen in their town. I stared at the smoldering holes in the street and shook my head. Lightning bolts. Apparently, the prayer had a serious Zeus complex. And that is where we are going to end our story. So we learned a lot. It's kind of crazy. Daniel's powers are still a little bit rusty, and now the prayer is really taking his time into treating Daniel like a little plaything now. Moving him up to the number 1 on his own list. You know, Daniel's right. Really does kind of make you wonder who the heck was on the prayer's number 1 first time. Huh. Guess we'll never know. Or maybe we will in a later chapter or something. Honestly, I'm not sure. But all I can say is we'll find out what happens next in the next few chapters in the next video I make. So all of you, y'all have a good night if you're watching this at night. If you're watching this during the day, y'all enjoy it. This has been Jake Flame with another spectacular few chapters of Daniel X Lights Out. Thank you, and have a flame-tastic night.